ಇಬ್ಬಂದಿ ಇಬ್ಬಂದಿಯಲ್ಲಿಯೇ ದರ್ಶನ ಕಾಣೋ.
Greetings, this is Shekhar Purna. Date, July 19th, 2026. Subject, what should Pather Panchali mean to you and me? Sometimes I pat my own back. I am 71 years old and still haven't forgotten everything completely. It is out of the fear that I might forget that I am speaking here today. If the grumbling of a 71-year-old who looks back at the past and laments that we have crossed the golden age to face the current harsh, corrupt reality reaches your ears, then it is neither your fault nor mine. Let us blame time and go have a cup of coffee. I am certain that once we return from our coffee, a necessary stage of conversation will unfold. In 1928, Bibhuti Bhushan Bandyopadhyay wrote the novel Pather Panchali. It has been brilliantly translated into Kannada as Mahayatrika by Ahobala Shankara, and Raghavendra Padmashali has provided another edition of the translation. The story of a priest, his wife, his mother, his daughter, and his son, people suffering under the scorching heat and famine, is one that everyone tells. But when one reflects on why an author would choose to set his work in the midst of a famine, Satyajit Ray's 1955 film Pather Panchali immediately stands before the eyes. In the story, there are Durga and Appu. Famine and hunger haunt them inside and outside their home. Durga, with her wide, black, innocent eyes, steals a small, unripe guava from a tree and starts running. Appu, with his yearning eyes, chases after her. They reach a meadow filled with wild kash flowers on the outskirts of the village. Somewhere in the distance, a strange sound is heard. They listen intently, and as the sound reaches a peculiar rhythm, they start running towards it. A train speeds past on the tracks. With eyes wide open, Durga and Appu look at each other and smile. It is the first time they have ever seen a train. That moment of theirs has no connection to the famine. Their world is different, and the world of the famine is another. The way Pather Panchali narrates the story between these two disparate worlds makes every scene a rare, beautiful piece of storytelling. I am comfortable and you are comfortable. Why do we need the ordeal of this Pather Panchali? Amidst self-centered minds trying to build their own lives, the values of Pather Panchali are fading away. I am filled with a sense of disgust. If I speak the truth, may the house go to ruin. Why didn't a man who went to London 80 years ago for professional training just stay there? Why did he return to India like Gandhi, mortgage his wife's jewelry to raise funds for the film's production, work for 2 years, and spend 1.5 of those years agonizing, worrying and struggling, only to bring Pather Panchali to us? If such milestones had not been left in the history of cinema, we could have lived our lives in peace, ignoring our surroundings and pushing all our observations into a deep slumber. In this current atmosphere, where the JDS and Congress leaders occupying the nearby Bidadi area are accusing each other and trumpeting political depravity, if you are cursing Pather Panchali and Satyajit Ray saying, "Damn this house," and I am cursing back, "Damn your house," I understand that. Resting Shekhar Purna.
Usually when we think about history, or profound messages, we kind of picture something dug up from the ground, like a time capsule buried in a cornerstone a century ago, or some dusty manuscript found in an attic.
Right. There's this built-in expectation of distance. We fully expect voices from the past to sound, well, past, like they're speaking to us across this vast, unimaginable canyon of time.
Exactly.
And it feels safe, right? Because it's detached. It's neatly categorized as history, which means we don't necessarily have to let it bleed into our morning routine.
But then you encounter a piece of writing that just completely shatters that safe distance. A message that isn't from a century ago, but from today. Literally today.
Yeah, that changes everything.
It really does. Suddenly that time capsule isn't some rusty box. It's a mirror reflecting exactly who we are right now. So today we are doing a deep dive into a document that is profoundly intimate and deeply personal. We actually have our hands on a note written today, July 19, 2026, by a 71-year-old man named Shekhar Purna.
And I think it's important to note this isn't just a casual diary entry. Shekhar has a very specific, provocative mission with this text. He is putting a central question directly to you, the listener, and to us.
Right.
He essentially wants to know, what should Pather Panchali mean to you and me?
Okay, let's unpack this.
Oh,
Because diving into this source material means we first need to understand the emotional state of the man who wrote it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shekhar is writing from a place of intense vulnerability here. He explicitly tells us that he's writing out of a fear of forgetting.
Which is such a powerful motivator. I mean, he says, sometimes I pat my own back. I am 71 years old and still haven't forgotten everything completely.
Wow.
Right. He is terrified of losing his grip on what he considers these essential human truths, so he feels this intense compulsion to speak out today before it's too late.
And he self-identifies as a grumbling 71-year-old. He openly laments that we seem to have crossed a golden age only to arrive at this current reality that feels, harsh and corrupt.
But he also completely disarms you right from the start.
He does. He tells the reader that if his grumbling reaches your ears, it's neither his fault nor yours. He invites you to simply blame time.
I love that part. In fact, he extends this wonderful metaphorical invitation to just go have a cup of coffee with him. He suggests that once we return from that coffee, the real conversation can unfold.
Yeah, and that invitation really sets the terms of engagement. He doesn't want to lecture you. He wants to converse. But before we can get to the heavy existential questions he poses about our modern lives, we have to build the literary foundation that this entire meditation rests upon.
Right, we have to look at the story Shekhar is so desperate not to forget.
Exactly. So Shekhar takes us all the way back to 1928 to a Bengali novelist named Bibhutibhushan Bandyopadhyay, who wrote the novel Pather Panchali.
And what really stands out in the source is how particular Shekhar is about the lineage of this story. He tracks how it has traveled and been preserved across different cultures within India.
Yeah, he specifically highlights how it was translated into Canada.
Right, he mentions a brilliant translation titled Mahayatrika by Ahobala Shankara, and he also points to another edition by Raghavendra Padmashali.
So he's really charting the course of a cultural bedrock that has been carefully passed from hand to hand, language to language.
Which speaks to the sheer universality of the narrative. This isn't just a story that resonates in one single region. At its core, the novel follows a rural family, a priest, his wife, his mother, his daughter, and his young son.
And they're living under the most extreme, unimaginable duress. They are caught in the grip of blistering heat and a devastating famine. It is a story of absolute grinding poverty.
Yeah, the daily agonizing struggle just to survive the environment. It's a relentless depiction of human endurance against natural and economic forces that are entirely indifferent to their suffering.
But when Shekhar reflects on why a piece of art set in the middle of a famine still matters, his mind doesn't stay on the pages of the 1928 novel.
No, it doesn't.
He immediately jumps to the visual language of cinema. He goes straight to Satyajit Ray's legendary 1955 film adaptation of Pather Panchali.
Yeah.
Specifically, Shekhar hones in on the two children of the family, the daughter Durga and the young son Apu.
Right. And famine and hunger are haunting them, quite literally inside and outside their home.
Yeah.
But Shekhar anchors his entire argument to a specific sensory memory of one iconic scene from that film. It's this moment that seems permanently etched into his consciousness, and he uses it to demonstrate how a master storyteller handles tragedy.
And the imagery he pulls from this scene is incredibly striking. You have Durga, and Shekhar specifically remembers her wide, black, innocent eyes. She steals a small, unripe guava from a tree and takes off running.
And Apu, her little brother, with his yearning eyes, chases after her.
Right. They're running away from the village, physically distancing themselves from the immediate crushing weight of their starving home until they reach this meadow on the outskirts filled with wild cash flowers.
The visual contrast alone there, the starvation of the home versus the wild, untamed beauty of those cash flowers, it's stunning.
It really is.
But it's the auditory shift that truly elevates the moment. Somewhere in the distance, they hear a strange sound.
Yeah, they stop and listen intently. And as that sound builds, reaching this peculiar mechanical rhythm, they just start running toward it.
They burst through the wildflowers, and there it is, a train speeding past on the tracks.
It's a massive, rushing machine of the modern world slicing through their rural landscape. And with their eyes wide open, Durga and Apu look at each other and they smile.
Because it is the very first time in their entire lives they have ever seen a train.
What's fascinating here is how Shekhar points out something incredibly profound about this specific sequence. That moment of pure, unadulterated joy has absolutely zero connection to the famine.
Right. Their world of childish wonder, of chasing a stolen guava and marveling at a train, is entirely disparate from the world of starvation that surrounds them.
They're existing in two separate realities simultaneously.
Yeah, and Shekhar argues that the way the film navigates the space between these disparate worlds is what makes it a rare, beautiful piece of storytelling.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because if you think about it from a traditional narrative perspective, you might assume that ignoring the famine, even for a few minutes of screen time, would weaken the impact of the story.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. I mean, imagine watching a house burn down. but the camera completely ignores the flames to focus on a beautiful, delicate butterfly landing on the front lawn. Doesn't that risk trivializing the massive tragedy happening right behind it?
That's a great question.
By taking the focus off the suffering, aren't you diluting the reality of the famine?
Well, that burning house and the butterfly is the perfect way to visualize it. But focusing on the butterfly actually accomplishes the exact opposite of trivializing the fire. It heightens the tragedy exponentially.
How so?
By showing us Durga and Apu's uncorrupted innocence, their ability to still find wonder in an unripe guava and a passing train, we are reminded of exactly what the famine is on the verge of destroying.
It's not just destroying their physical bodies, it's threatening to extinguish their capacity for joy.
Precisely. If the film only showed relentless, unyielding misery from start to finish, the human brain would eventually become numb to it.
Right, of course.
We naturally build up calluses to protect ourselves from constant pain. But that stark contrast, the sudden burst of childhood joy against the backdrop of starvation, it strips away our emotional calluses. It forces us to feel the full, unbearable weight of what is being lost.
Man, the joy is the very thing that makes the sorrow unbearable to watch. You need the light to show how dark the shadows really are.
Exactly.
And understanding how deliberately that contrast was crafted flows right into the next part of Shekhar's note.
Yeah.
Because creating that kind of perfect, heartbreaking art doesn't happen by accident.
No, it takes an incredible toll.
Right, the conversation shifts from the breathtaking beauty of the scene on the screen to the agonizing personal toll it took on the artist to actually create it. We have to look at Satyajit Ray.
Yeah, Shekhar outlines the immense, almost incomprehensible sacrifice Ray made to bring this vision to life. The text notes that Satyajit Ray went to London 80 years ago for professional training.
And since Shekhar is writing this today, in 2026, that places Ray's trip to London right around 1946, just before India's independence.
Exactly. So Ray is in London. He's receiving top-tier professional training. He has international opportunities right in front of him.
And Shekhar asks a glaring question. Why didn't he just stay there?
Right. Why didn't he stay in London, build a comfortable life, and enjoy a lucrative career in a stable environment?
Instead, he returned to India. And Shekhar doesn't take this lightly. He actually compares Ray's return to Gandhi's return to India. That is how monumental he views this decision for the cultural landscape.
And he returned not to wealth, but to a grueling uphill battle. To fund the production of Pather Panchali, Ray had to mortgage his own wife's jewelry. He didn't have massive studio backing or a safety net. He put his own life savings and his family's fundamental financial security on the line to tell a story about a starving family. He worked on the project for 2 entire years.
And Shekhar points out that of those 2 years, Ray spent a year and a half agonizing, worrying, and struggling against incredible odds just to get the film in front of the public.
A year and a half of just pure struggle.
It is mind-boggling to think about that level of commitment. It's like someone having a first-class ticket on a luxury cruise liner. They are safe, comfortable, well-fed, but instead of enjoying the journey, they choose to jump overboard and swim back to a storm-battered shore.
Yeah, just to show the people in the safe, dry land what the freezing water actually feels like.
They dismantle their own comfort for the sake of the message.
This raises an important question, though, and it brings us to a really uncomfortable paradox that Shekhar introduces.
Okay, what is it?
He isn't just praising Ray's sacrifice, he's actually expressing a deep frustration with it. He writes, "If such milestones had not been left in the history of cinema, we could have lived our lives in peace, ignoring our surroundings and pushing all our observations into a deep slumber."
Wait, really? He is frustrated that the masterpiece exists.
In a sense, yes. Because great art forces an unwanted awakening upon us. By enduring that agony to create Pather Panchali, Ray left behind a milestone that refuses to let us sleep.
Right.
If the film didn't exist, we wouldn't have to carry the emotional burden of Durga and Apu's story. We wouldn't have to confront the reality of their suffering or the fragile beauty of their joy. The artist suffered to create the art, and now we, the audience, are cursed with the burden of awareness.
An unwanted awakening. That phrase carries so much weight. If you see the butterfly in the burning house, you can no longer pretend the house isn't on fire. You are implicated. And that burden of awareness is the bridge to the true climax of Shekhar's note. Because this concept of an unwanted awakening crashes headfirst into his ultimate profound disgust with the modern world.
Yeah, this is where it gets very contemporary.
He looks at this beautiful, agonizing piece of art from 1955, and then he looks out his window today, in July 2026, and he is horrified by the disconnect.
The chasm between the profound empathy required to understand Pather Panchali and the pervasive apathy of the modern world is what is driving his fear.
Shekhar brings up a piercing existential dilemma for all of us. He points directly at you, the reader, and says, I am comfortable and you are comfortable. Why do we need the ordeal of this Pather Panchali?
He is watching the fundamental values of this film completely fade away.
Right. He writes that he is filled with a sense of disgust because he feels surrounded by self-centered minds that are exclusively focused on building their own individual lives, completely detached from the suffering of others.
And to understand the specific flavor of his disgust, we need to look at the environment right outside his door. In his note, Shekhar specifically calls out the current atmosphere near the Badadi area.
Right, a town in Karnataka.
Yes, and he observes leaders from regional political parties, specifically the JDS in Congress, trading accusations. Now, just to be absolutely clear for our listeners, we aren't taking a stance on regional Indian politics here.
Oh, absolutely not.
We aren't endorsing any political viewpoint regarding these specific parties. We are looking at this purely through Shekhar's eyes, impartially, exactly as he wrote it today.
Right, we're just reading the thermometer he placed in his own backyard, basically. He's using his local politics as a microcosm for a global problem.
Exactly. He describes these political leaders as trumpeting political depravity. For Shekhar, this localized political noise is the ultimate symptom of our modern disease.
It's an atmosphere driven by ego, accusation, and self-interest.
Yeah, an environment utterly devoid of the quiet, observational humanity he sees in Ray's film.
Think about your own daily routine for a second. You probably scroll past a dozen political arguments, 2 global crises, and a local tragedy before you even finish your morning coffee.
Probably.
Shekhar is asking if that constant barrage of noise and self-interest has made us hollow. How does a person reconcile the fragile beauty of Durga and Apu discovering a train with the loud, performative depravity of modern political bickering?
Well, the psychological mechanism of modern comfort plays a huge role here. Empathy inherently requires vulnerability. To truly feel the ordeal of a starving family, you have to lower your defenses and allow that pain to touch you.
Right.
Modern comfort, however, is largely designed to shield us from vulnerability. We have systems in place to avoid friction. When you spend your entire life in an environment that encourages you to look away from discomfort, a piece of art that intentionally demands you feel someone else's pain feels like an intrusion.
So what does this all mean for us? Shekhar synthesizes this conflict in an incredibly raw, almost combative conclusion.
Yeah, he does not hold back.
He essentially says, in a world filled with such political depravity and selfishness, if you, the modern, comfortable listener, find yourself cursing Pather Panchali and cursing Satyajit Ray, throwing your hands up and saying, damn this house, because the art is just too heavy, too much of an ordeal to bear.
Right.
And if Shekhar is cursing right back at you, saying, damn your house for your apathy,
Yeah.
he completely understands.
It is a devastating realization. He acknowledges that a mutual resentment has formed. The comfortable modern audience resents the art for demanding empathy, and the historian resents the audience for failing to provide it.
It's tragic that this breathtaking piece of cinema has mutated from a work of art into a painful, burning mirror.
Yeah.
It doesn't just tell a story anymore. It reflects our current apathy right back at us,
Yeah.
exposing how insulated we have become.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of Shekhar's note, he isn't actually mad at the film. And he isn't even truly mad at the audience for struggling to process it. He is mourning the loss of a specific type of human connection. He is furious that the raw, vulnerable empathy required to truly appreciate the ordeal of Pather Panchali seems to be evaporating. We are so insulated by our comforts and so distracted by the endless noise of self-centered ambition that a story about starvation and innocent wonder is treated as a nuisance rather than a revelation.
We resent the art for waking us up from our deep slumber. We'd rather just sleep. It's incredibly sobering to think that a 71-year-old man sat down today, July 19th, 2026, terrified that this fundamental capacity for empathy was going extinct.
He wrote this out of a desperate need to find out if anyone else is still awake.
It speaks volumes about the enduring, dangerous power of what Satyajit Ray created. Ray mortgaged his family's jewelry and sacrificed his own comfort to build a cinematic monument to human resilience.
And 70 years later, that monument is still standing there, blocking our path, demanding that we feel something, demanding that we don't look away from the famine, whether that famine is a literal lack of food in 1928 or a spiritual lack of empathy today.
Let's take a breath and recap the incredible journey this deep dive has taken us on.
Good idea.
We started with a time capsule from the absolute present, a deeply personal note written today by a man terrified of collective amnesia. We walked with him through the origins of a 1928 novel, noting its cross-cultural translations all the way to a cinematic meadow of wild cash flowers.
Yeah, we watched two starving children discover the pure, unadulterated joy of a rushing train and explored how that fleeting joy forces us to confront the true horror of their reality.
We examined the agonizing personal sacrifice of the artist, Satyajit Ray, who abandoned a safe trajectory in London to endure years of struggle in India. He risked his family's livelihood to birth this story into the world.
Leaving behind a milestone that forces an unwanted awakening upon anyone who watches it.
And finally, we confronted the uncomfortable mirror that Shekhar holds up to our modern reality. We look at a world where the localized political noise in places like Baghdadi, combined with our own algorithmic comforts, make the empathy demanded by Pather Panchali feel like an unbearable burden.
We examined his raw, painful conclusion, the mutual cursing of damn this house and damn your house in a society that seems to have lost its emotional compass.
It's vital to remember that Shekhar's goal with this note was never just to provide a retrospective movie review. He wasn't casually analyzing cinema over that metaphorical cup of coffee.
No, not at all. He was desperately asking you, the reader, if we are still fundamentally capable of feeling the ordeal of others.
He's asking if the machinery of modern life has made us completely hollow. Which brings us back to where we started. We talked at the beginning about how a message from today can shatter the safe distance we usually keep from history.
Right.
Shekhar's note isn't a dusty artifact. It's a living, breathing challenge to our daily routine.
A challenge that requires an active response from anyone who reads it.
We want to leave you with a lingering thought today. Something to mull over on your own time, maybe while you're having that cup of coffee Shekhar invited you to. If a black and white film from 1955 still possesses the raw, dangerous power to disturb our comfortable slumber today, simply by showing a fleeting moment of innocent wonder amidst a devastating famine, what contemporary pieces of art, if any, possess that same dangerous power?
What is being created right now in our world that has the strength to wake us up from our own modern-day famines of empathy?
Are there artists today willing to mortgage their own security to hold up that mirror? Or have we become too comfortable, too distracted, to even attempt to create our generation's Pather Panchali?
Because if we can't find the art that wakes us up, we might just sleep through the fire entirely, never even noticing the butterfly on the lawn.
Keep questioning, keep seeking out the art that challenges your comfort, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.